Hey everyone, it's Mace1370. Today we are going to go over Lifesteal Specter Tenebria and showcase her in a couple RTA matches. Before we get into it though, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Also, please see the video description below for a link to my Discord. Alrighty, so Lifesteal Specter Tenebria has been making, quite the debut I suppose, in higher level RTA, and even in the E7 World Cup we saw a bunch of Lifesteal Specter Tenebrias. So I thought I would go over, how to build her, why you would put her on Lifesteal. You can show her in a few matches so you guys get an idea of whether or not you should switch yours over. So Specter Tenebria is a hero that is really difficult for the enemy to hit, right? Because she's kind of in perma-stealth. And so they need AoE damage to hit her. And oftentimes you'll run her into teams that have some AoE skills on their skill 3. So for example, an LR Crow, a General Purgus. These are the types of units that will come out the gate with a bunch of damage in AoE form, but they won't really be able to follow it up with subsequent AoE attacks for a while. And those are the scenarios where Lifesteal Specter Tenebria can really shine, because if you build her tanky enough, she can absorb that first hit, and then she uses Lifesteal to slowly heal herself back up, and she's ready to go again when their skill 3 comes back up. If you ran her on speed set, then they would typically be able to finish her off once all their skills reset, and that could lose you the game. This is of course in a scenario where you don't have a Soul Weaver to heal her back up, and you don't always have access to one, because if you draft 1 they might ban it, if you draft 2 that might not be an optimal draft depending on your situation. So Lifesteal Specter Tenebria I think is really valuable. Another scenario that she can really shine in is against Researcher Carrot, particularly in a draft where Researcher Carrot is the only enemy DPS. In that situation, Researcher Carrot's burns are typically not enough to finish off the Spectre, because you have Lifesteal passively healing you back up in between Carrot's skill 3s. So, it also helps if you have shields from like FCC or something like that, but it can allow you to take Spectenny into a Researcher Carrot, who's a really popular hero in the meta right now. So how do you build Lifesteal Specter Tenebria? You're going to want her to have at least 180 speed. Any slower than that, and I just don't think she takes enough turns, and you don't really need her too much faster either, because typically when you draft Spectenny, you are sitting there waiting to get like 6 souls or 8 souls or whatever it is, so that you can soul burn her a bunch and then just delete enemies off the battlefield all in one go. So she doesn't need to be turn cycling like crazy to accomplish that. That said, you do want her to take some amount of turns, so I think about 180-185 speed is a good number. Once you get this amount of speed, you're going to want to look for, I think, at least 11k HP and about 1400 or higher defense. The reason you want her this tanky, particularly why you want her to have at least 11k HP, is against true damage threats, which ignores defense. Researcher Carrot, the burns ignore a large percentage of defense, so having a pad of hit points allows you to absorb those attacks, and then having high defense mitigates damage, right, against things like General Purgus or an RB skill 3 or whatever it is. So this is the stat line that I think I've really come down on, in favor of. She survives really well with this stat line, and I don't think she needs to be too much tankier than this. So once you get that, level of hit points and defense, you obviously want 100% crit chance. I think 250 crit damage is the sweet spot, and then as much attack as you can possibly get. I was able to get 3422. Obviously more is better. When I had her on the speed set before, I think she had around 3600 attack, and similar, I think she had like 12k HP, and it was a good build. I think it's perfectly viable to still run her on speed set, but I've really been liking Lifesteal. It did take some getting used to. You definitely have to become accustomed to how hard your units hit. I was soul burning her expecting her to kill things on this new build, and she didn't, so you kind of just need to learn when you can go for it, basically. We can take a look at her gear here. It all rolled really well, so this is all really highly itemized pieces. Ideally you do want her on a crit chance neck. I have her on crit damage. The reason why is because she has really low base crit, and so using a crit chance neck makes it a lot easier to build her. Additionally, crit chance necks give you more rolls worth of stats. So crit damage necks here, they give you 70% crit damage. The highest roll for crit damage is 7%, so this is 10 max rolls worth of stats. Crit chance necks, on the other hand, they're 60% crit chance. The highest crit chance roll is 5%, so that's 12 rolls worth of stats. So you are technically getting more rolls worth of stats on a crit chance neck. I just haven't made one that has good substats yet, so I've been using crit damage. But if I was able to get that, then ideally I would basically have a full extra roll of attack here, because all the stats would shuffle over. So immunity is obviously very important on her. You don't want her getting debuffed before she takes her turn. and I think Book is really the best in slot for her. You could put her on other artifacts, may just have a lot of options. You could even theoretically use like Crown or something for stuns, but I think Book is just so strong. It allows units to soul burn right out the gate. So for example, if you have LR Crow on your team and you want to soul burn him right away, that's always a really strong play against the right enemy teams. And having souls in the beginning lets you do that. Same idea with like ML Tywin, for example. And then if you don't want to do that, it just gets you 20 souls closer to achieving critical mass and deleting targets. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say about Specter Tenebria. Her Lifesteal build is really strong, and if you have the gear, I would recommend it. That said, you don't need it. She still works really well without Lifesteal gear, so if you're one of those players that just pulled a new Specter Tenebria from the Moonlight Blessing, don't feel like she has to go on Lifesteal. She can definitely still go on Speed Set. And if you put her on Speed Set, her stat line will basically be very similar to this, but just higher for whatever your gear level is. So, I would have like another 200 attack here or something like that, and a little bit more speed, a little bit more hit points from the, the bonus from the Speed Set filtering out. So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple matches with Specter Tenebria. Alright, first match here is against Keijo LSZ. I haven't fought this particular opponent very often, so I really don't know what he does. He has first pick here, so I think pre-banning the Fairy Tail Tenebria is a reasonable pre-ban. He actually pre-bans RB. No, I'm sorry, we have first pick. I had that flipped around. So we have first pick, and he's pre-banned RB, and this is usually a good opportunity to just take a Specter Tenebria. A pre-ban RB could indicate that they're cleaving, but more often than not it indicates that they are trying to, take Spec Tenny themselves and do some sort of protect the Stenny comp. And, if you know the opponent isn't a cleaver, you can definitely just grab the Specter and deny it from them. So he takes Blue Crow and Researcher Carrot here. So we have to craft our draft in a way that's going to let us protect Specter Tenebria and potentially deal with a Carrot. As I mentioned in the build video for Lifesteal Specter Tenebria, you can definitely take her into Carrot if Carrot is, the real only AoE source of damage. The Lifesteal, can really help counteract the burn damage and keep Spec Tenny alive. And it really helps if you have a knight like Fallen Cecilia to give her barriers, something like that can also help. So I go ahead and take Falconer Clury here, and I'm also going to grab FCC. I think both of these heroes will help protect Stenny because Clury has that passive healing every time she takes a turn to help heal up the burn damage. Fallen Cecilia has, the skill null and the barriers. And Falconer Clury is good on my side here because I already have the Spec Tenny, so I don't have to worry about the opponent taking, a stealthy DPS like Spec Tenny and my Clury not being able to get to her. The opponent takes Diane here and Lilius. I debate about taking Landy since, the opponent has Diane on their side. If I do that, then it could put me in a scenario where my Landy just dies, though, because if the Carrot's able to break her out of stealth, like Soul Burns and just detonates 2 burns on her, my Landy could just die. And, well-built Carrots are probably capable of doing that. And this, person is like a high-level player, so I feel like taking Landy might be a little risky here, since you have that Diane and an attack buff. So I decided to take SSB instead. I feel like SSB is good into Lilius at the very least, and she's fine into Carrot. She's opposite element, so there's a decent chance that Carrot whiffs on her and isn't able to land those burns and stuff. Carrot can definitely delete SSB also, but my SSB is a lot tankier, so I don't have to worry about it as much, I think. And then I take Maid Chloe here because I want to give my team an attack buff, and the revive from Maid Chloe also counters the horse from LR Crow to a degree. So assuming that my SSB doesn't get banned here, the Crow has 2 targets that he really needs to prioritize for horsing. He takes out the SSB, which is okay. We still have Spec Tenny. I ban the Landy because it's just like way too much damage for me to deal with, I think. Between the buffs from JFA on Flurry and the buffs from Maid, I think this Landy would just go bananas, essentially. And I don't think I can tank out that damage. And if she hides, in stealth at the wrong moment and I'm not able to break her out, it's bad news. Also, my team is not super high damage against the Landy. SSB, assuming she made it through, can miss a lot on Landy. And Specter Tenebria is a hero that you really have to sit back for a long time and let souls build up. And that is like Omega dangerous against a Landy with attack buff, especially on when you have a team that has a lot of buffs. So I think I had to ban the Landy there. So I kind of time out here. Crypto came over and was demanding pets, so not the best first turn. I really should have just skill 3'd the Lilius. I didn't even need to soul burn, since this game is going to go for a few rounds. I should have S3'd on the Lilius there just to see if she was high ER, but I got distracted, and so when I clicked on the carrot, and I think it had timed out anyways and went on DN. So that's a little bit unfortunate. I put up my skill 3 here because I have no idea, is this like a crit damage Lilius or what's the deal? And if she is crit damage, I want to mitigate her skill 3 damage here a bit if possible, since we really don't want our Specter Tenebria just getting deleted right away, right? I debate about skill 3 in here. I think there's some merit to it, since it would kind of clog up my buffs. Unfortunately, this pushed my Specter ahead. I was hoping it wouldn't do that. I decided just to hold the skill 3 so that I could use it after Carrot uses her skill 3, and then it would, dispel the burns.
Shall I test my theory? I've already finished.
He could have held his skill 3 here, and then I guess we could have played chicken, but he just elects to burn it. So we get a few resists here thanks to that Shamadra staff on Maid. He goes into the Falconer Clury, and that one burn is just not enough to really do much. Flurry has continuous healing also, so she's just going to heal that back up no problem.
The goddess will. Please, save us. Got it, Flurry? Just like we practiced.
So now I think we can just work on the Lilius. Get a lucky dual attack and land a provoke, so to me that indicates this Lilius is low effect resistance. Get another dual attack, because we're dual attack gamers. And now my Spec Tenny has 2 burns on her, so I'm just going to dispel those off with the Maid.
This way. Prepare yourself. It's time to find an answer. Not bad.
We can continue working on the Lilius here. She's low enough hit points. I didn't see in the beginning if she had an artifact, but it wouldn't surprise me if she was on Holy Sacrifice. Especially if she's crit damage. She was only like 17k HP, so I don't... Yeah, she must have been a crit damage Lilius, I guess.
This is a formidable opponent. Maybe I'm working too
Because she seems kind of squishy, to be honest.
I will guide you through the light. You'll regret this.
Alright, Carrot has her skill 3 again, and souls to burn. So she keeps burning that skill 3 to help rotate through. Now we have 3 burns on our Specter Tenebria.
I need an assistant. Supermaid! Chloe's coming!
We can just go into the Lilius here.
I hope this job is a little easier.
And at this point, I see that my Specter is coming up. Unfortunately, the attack buff was dispelled. Instead, I'm just going to soul burn here on the DN. I feel like I can probably kill her with defense break, because we have a full soul burn here from Specter. You can see how much those burns did, but we're just going to heal a lot of it back up, especially going into a defense break like this. So it's, those burns tick again, but we've healed it, and so now we're going to go into this defense break, kill the DN, and you can see that we're almost full life again. So even though we're splashing into the carrot here and getting extra burns, it's just not enough to do anything.
Fight a little harder, Flurry.
So now that DN is down, I feel like this is going to be a really uphill battle for our opponent, since no longer has access to attack buff, so those burns are not even going to hit as hard. And even if he was able to get something down, we could probably bring it back with the Maid. Like, he just doesn't have that much pressure. The thing that could be dangerous here is if Crow gets low enough and horses the Maid. Theoretically, I guess that could be, a bad scenario that we wouldn't be able to come back from. I just go into the Lilius here. There's a chance this kills given how squishy she is. And it actually does kill.
Maybe I'm walking.
So we get the knockback, and she was not wholly sacrificed, or if she was, it was not a plus 30. I need to go back and look at the VOD, but that'll be it for this game.
How about no? Got it, Flurry?
Okay, this game I am first pick. I pre-banned Basar, and the opponent pre-bans Maid Chloe. The meta has definitely shifted now that Researcher Carrot is really popular in higher-end RTA games. I take Fallen Cecilia first here. I don't know how great of a first pick she is. I'm still trying to feel out how the meta's changed. I feel like some games I get really punished for taking her, and then other games I don't. So it might be that other people are still trying to figure out the meta as well, and things haven't really shaken out yet. I think that's likely the case. Either way, the opponent takes Crow and then General Purgus, and I think this is a little bit of an odd combination, since General Purgus is pretty offensive and Crow is pretty defensive. It does provide, the opponent with attack buff and with defense buff, so I think that Landy is a pretty decent pick here. All those buffs on the enemy team means that she will get a lot of focus and will get a lot of free skill 3s. I also have Fallen CC to protect her, and I don't have to worry about Basar. I also take Diane here. I think Diane's a good pick because she's an attack buff. She gives me some sustain and a cleanse, and since I have Landy, I don't have to worry about being punished by the opponent taking Landy into Diane. And I think this sets me up in a pretty good spot. I can take another DPS if I need it. I have room to counter pick whatever my opponent does here, and if need be, I can just ban out their last pick. So they do take the Researcher Carrot. And I think that's a pretty good pick into my team, since if Carrot gets attack buff and is able to do enough damage to break Landy out of stealth, then she can potentially just one-shot her off of the burns. The opponent also takes Falcon or Clury, which is kind of an interesting pick. I don't think Falcon or Clury is great into Landy necessarily, and Carrot can't really capitalize on the defense break. Carrot does most of her damage via burns and detonate, and so I feel like Falcon or Clury S2 into Carrot doesn't really do a whole lot. But Clury's a decent speed threat. I take Cerise and Specter Tenebria here. I think Cerise is really strong into General Purgus, and she's also pretty decent into Carrot. Her speed down and restrict can kind of clog up Carrot with debuff so that you're able to then stun her on subsequent turns. Also, you have, with Miss Confile, the ability to defense break her and take her out really quickly, since Carrots are typically built with pretty high defense and not as much hit points. Spectenny here I think is good because the opponent does not have a ton of AoE reach at this point. They really just have Carrot and then like a General Purgus S3. So they take Kayron. I ban the Clury because I don't want to risk Clury outspeeding my Cerise. If that happened, I felt like I was just dead. So I banned out the Clury. And since I do have Cerise, I can handle the Kayron pretty easily. I think they probably should have banned the Cerise. I guess what they were going for instead was getting rid of my mitigation so that they can potentially just one-shot the Landy here.
I'll show you some results. Statistically,
And this is actually a pretty fast Carrot. Since she was restricted, but she cuts my Diane, who's around 230, I think. So pretty speedy Carrot. Does a decent amount of damage, but not enough to one-shot. So here I debate about using either skill 2 or putting up the skill 3. I decide I probably want attack buff, since I think no matter what I do, my Landy is probably gonna die.
death is your repentance.
And I can potentially get off, an attack buff skill 3 this way. I also wanted to save the cleanse in case of a provoke or something like that. Luckily I did not get stunned here. I think if my Specter Tenebria got stunned, that would have been good game, since Kayron would have been able to take a turn with attack buff and probably would have swiped. But because my Spectre was not stunned, I am able to
You disgust me.
stun the Kayron instead. So I think this worked out really well in my favor. You know, had the opponent not banned out my Fallen Cecilia and had banned Cerise instead, I think I probably still would have been fine, because I would have been able to put Skill Null with FCC. Additionally, that carrot did not hit super hard, so there was a chance that she wouldn't have broken the shield, you know, and therefore might not have stripped off immunity from people.
My goddess.
So I can skill 2 with Diane here to get off one of those burns. And most of the enemy team is restricted. I don't have to hit Kayron yet because he's all the way at the back of the CR bar, and my Diane can probably just skill 1 him at some point before he takes a turn. So I go into the Purgus. I get the defense break with an attack from Specter Tenebria, which is really huge. It does boost the carrot, but she doesn't have her skill 3 yet, so I think it's fine. He does get a dual attack from Kayron there, which kind of feels bad, but it is what it is. So here I go into General Purgus again. Unfortunately, I did not kill since I hit with Cerise into Diane. I did not notice at the time he was on Proof of Valor. If he was not on Proof, I think he would have died there regardless. So in my head, I thought either, you know, party could kill him, or either person, you know, that was pulled in by Cerise would kill. But Proof, you know, gave him enough survivability to survive that one and gave my opponent a fair bit of CR. So that's probably a misplay on my part. I should have realized that he was on Proof of Valor. Alright, so took quite a bit of damage there from Carrot, but we're just going to Soul Burn here and take out the General Purgus. The burns do not manage to kill. And getting just a little bit of healing there from the Lifesteal. And we finish off Crow, so now it is my team against Carrot. Here I go for the stun.
This is what the goddess wills.
Unfortunately, my Cerise gets burned and dies, which is awkward. Carrot still has one more turn on her skill 3. I decided to put up attack buff. I think in my head I thought like, oh, this will just kill. And it probably will.
Not bad.
Actually, it definitely will, since I have skill 3.
Look into my eyes. Say my name.
Okay, that is game.
I trust the path laid before us.